Where in the Folk is not and should not be viewed as a news source. Any names, places, or likenesses mentioned are purely fictional, and any information discussed is purely speculative. Guest opinions are their own and do not reflect those of anyone else. Where in the Folk is not responsible for content accuracy of any stories that are told or what people do with these stories. This show is vulgar, sometimes graphic, and due to its content, it should not be viewed by anyone actually.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Where in the Folk. I hope everybody's had a great day and a happy Friday the 13th.
Yay!
Jason, it's the day of spook.
That's right.
This is the day that Jason was born under the Christmas tree in the manger and then drowned in a lake and then sprouted from the lake. But I hope everybody's had a great week. How's your all's week been?
Yeah, it's been a week. Yeah.
Good.
Pretty good.
Good.
Hey, Harrison.
Hello. So I want to get started before we get into any funnies or anything with just with what's happening in my area. You may have seen it because I heard it in Maine national news. We had a mass shooter about 7 miles from my house. I guess it would be, wouldn't it, Tully?
Yeah. Hiding out in the woods.
Yeah, just chilling in the woods. They still haven't found him. He didn't kill anybody. He did severely injure a few people.
Oh, hey, Harry. I got you.
But
I'm not used to seeing Harrison, dude.
but he's still on the loose. It's been almost a week. We actually drove through it, I guess, like as soon as it happened, like just after he hit the hills. It was weird. We was driving down the interstate from Lexington, and there was a cop past us, and then he pulled over on the shoulder road, and my wife was like, he's abusing his siren, you know? That's why I thought too. I was like, yeah, what the hell's he doing? Then we got further up the road, and you could see cars just on the side of the road and stuff.
Well,
so it was weird.
Hey, Landa. There was some weird stuff. So, maybe next week, once it's resolved a little bit more, we can put together a proper like videos and stuff like that. But there's a video of the police chief, or like it was either the police chief or the sheriff or somebody in Kentucky State Police. They're like, here's where the shooter was, and he literally was like, it's inaccessible.
Yeah,
it was inaccessible. And I'm like, so it's 7 miles away from Cecil's.
Yeah,
but it's even less than that away from one of the Kentucky State Police SWAT team units.
Yeah,
they've got helicopters, they've got Humvees, they've got rocket launchers, like you name it, because it's also an attachment of the Kentucky National Guard.
Yeah.
So, and they're saying that this little bluff was inaccessible to the police where he was firing from. Well, how did he get up there?
How did he get out of there?
Right.
Like, I don't know. It's pretty wild.
And then there was the lie, or I guess the media manipulation of his military experience. They were like, oh, he's military trained and this and that. And it turns out the extent of his military training is that he attended ROTC.
I don't know much about that. I haven't heard too much about it or gained confirmation, but I do know, people didn't make it easier to find them in this area, because everybody decided, well, if I go outside and shoot my gun off, he won't come this way. Like, you heard gunshots all night that night. Like, I was like, what are they doing? And so the cops were scattered everywhere, just looking for him, because people were outside shooting their guns, trying to scare somebody off.
Well, one of the compelling things, and I think me and Cecil both agree that we think that he is not amongst the living anymore. So the most compelling thing to me is they're doing drone sweeps and helicopter sweeps of the area every night.
Yeah.
And they said today that they are not seeing any heat signals in all of the thousands of acres other than like wildlife, like deer and stuff like that.
That's crazy. Well, you've sure been on my mind. Both of you have. You and Mandy, because like I said, every day it's like, yep, they still haven't found him. And I'm like, okay, well.
If he is alive, I hope he gets caught and gets the help he needs. He's obviously had some kind of break or something. So
yeah, he definitely sounds like he had a mental breakdown. I was just glad to hear it wasn't you.
Fair.
Yeah, Harry. One of the theories is that he hit a cave system. There's an extensive cave system in those woods, so maybe he did get abducted by Bigfoot.
Maybe. I mean, in that particular area, there's caves, ravines, everything that you can think of in the wilderness is out there. So I mean, and it's thousands upon thousands of just forest.
And there's a really extensive river system out there too, big wide river. So, and there's big cats, there's bears, wolves in the area.
Yeah.
And they did find his gun.
Yeah,
so he may only have like a sidearm or something. He dumped his rifle.
Yeah. But I'm just glad nobody was killed. People were injured real bad and hurt real bad, but at least nobody was killed in it. So
yeah.
So is that cave system near where our cave is, Cecil?
No, that's a county or two over.
Okay, cool. So we don't have to worry about breaking in there when shit hits the fan and finding his remains. Okay, good deal.
Yeah, and as that story develops, we'll double back to that and cover like all the weird stuff that gets confirmed.
Yep.
It was just really bizarre. Like that's the first time in that area where you've heard about people just shooting at random cars, because it's not.
It's really not though.
It's not anything like where this took place. It's wilderness. Like there's no city or even town that exists there. It's a gas station. That's all that's off that exit.
Yeah. But yeah, it's wild.
So
what? So we'll move right along. What you got for us?
Well, we'll lighten the mood a little bit. We'll get into the weekly funny, but not funny, because somebody got injured.
Funny.
So the headline was: a jogger was left bloodied, dazed, and crying after getting mauled by a gang of otters. And it says that she was left crying in a pool of her own blood after getting savaged by a gang of otters in Malaysia. The victim reportedly had been jogging through Tanjung Aru Recreation Park in Sabah when she was beset by 8 of the beasts, accompanying. Well, I think Cecil's got a picture of what she looked like in the aftermath.
Yeah, and this is a trigger warning. If you don't like the color of blood, close your eyes. This is going to have it. But here she is after she was attacked.
So the victim is shown in the aftermath of the attack. Preliminary investigations found that the group of otters entered the recreation center to look for food. And there is indeed a population of wild otters. And this is apparently a change in behavior. Like, I would assume this probably isn't her first time jogging there, but she was assaulted by otters. I wonder if she had food in her, like maybe she had food in her fanny pack they could smell.
I don't know. I don't trust.
I would probably give up jogging at this point.
Yeah.
I just don't trust otters. They're wild, untamed beasts. We just watched a show called Chimp Love on HBO. And it's showing how, these wild beasts can just turn on you at the flip of a hat. You know that?
Well, yeah, that's what always kills me is like people who aren't used to areas with wild animals. Like there was a lady that came in and was like, there's a wild dog, or there was a dog that escaped and it's out in a parking lot. And I tried to look for its collar, but I couldn't find it, and look out and it's a literal coyote in the parking lot. That's how like brain rotted people are.
Or the people that are in like Yellowstone walking up to try to hand feed the elk and bears and bison. Like, oh my God, if it weren't for them having children with them, they would deserve what they got.
Yeah. Which makes me think. I wonder what happened to Amy and the the camel.
Yeah. That's what I'm telling you. I haven't heard much else about that since that happened.
So another kind of crazy thing that happened this week that caught my eye. Well, this isn't funny. If you guys have other funny stuff, we need to lighten the mood some more before we hit the.
No,
I had one, but I'm not finding it. Damn it! This was one I caught right at the end when we were getting off last week that I said I was going to save for y'all.
Oh, I think you emailed it to me.
Did I email it to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just remembered that.
Yes, it's not. It's funny to me, but I'm sure it's probably not to you all.
Well, you look for that, and I'll hit this one. Okay. So apparently, police across the United States this week were given a new UFO handbook as they warn that the crafts could pose a significant safety risk. So police chiefs of America's largest cities have published the first guide about UAPs, which details chilling encounters and how officers can report such incidents. It's an 11-page document that warns UAPs pose a safety risk to law enforcement and air support units, urging teams that when using helicopters to be vigilant. It also highlights stories from officers who claim to confront UFOs, specifically one in 2023 where a law enforcement employee saw a triangle craft with green lights gliding through the sky before a local resident said something ran nearby, like on the, I guess, boots on the ground. The police executives created the reference because it's in the interest of law enforcement to be aware of trends in reporting on UAP due to the unknown threat that they pose.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently this organization that handed these out is called the Major Cities Chiefs Association. It includes 80 executives from major cities around the United States who work together to advance public safety.
Mm.
And that's the gist of that one. So, you see people going back and forth on, are aliens real or aliens not real? They use the term non-human biologics, and when really, in all reality, it's probably us. Like,
probably is. I mean, more than likely, that's what it is. He could be people from the future. It's possible, I guess.
So my thought is, like, if you just think about the timing of this, so the potential of World War III is ramping up quick.
Yeah.
And could they be telling people to stay vigilant on UAPs because maybe they're wargaming technology to roll out if World War III does break out? Maybe they run covert ops with these drones and stuff that they have that people are calling UFOs.
Yeah.
That's just a thought. I don't know what you guys think.
It's possible. I mean, it's fully possible because they have nowhere else to test these things besides in open skies. I watched a video today of a guy flying a little 2-engine plane, and there was one just going back and forth in front of him, like over and over. So something.
Yeah. Well, and I've read that, and this drops into like Bob Lazar territory because we just don't know a ton about Skunk Works and how everything is designed. But if you believe him, then the majority of those would have to be unmanned craft like drones because of the technology that's being used to go. You think about going from 0 to whatever, how many G that would be when they take off.
Yeah.
They would literally have like their brains coming out of their ears if people were in those regularly.
Yeah. That's wild. But you never know. It could be dogs.
Could be otters. Maybe that's why the otters are so mad. People are catching on.
They finally evolved.
That's right. We've got them fooled. We're cute. We're small. Now we attack.
Landa said that one attacked her daughter because it didn't like the way her boots looked.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Otters will attack you indiscriminately, people.
Yes. And don't feed them because they did say that they notice when people start feeding them, their behavior changes.
I hate to do this. I thought I could make it through a full episode with the kidney stone about ready to pass. I'm not going to make it. So I'm going to go ahead and bail off.
You're good.
Feel better.
Everybody have a great week. I'm going to go and cry like a baby.
Sounds good.
Feel better.
Bye.
Do you want to hit the next one, Morgana?
Yes. This is the one that I was saving for this week. And guys, I apologize because this one's going to be painful for you. Doctors in Lebanon say they treated a 38-year-old man who got an unusual bacterial infection in his penis after eating rice and having vigorous intercourse with his wife. The incident, the first case in literature describing such an entity, was detailed this month in the Annals of Medicine and Surgery. So evidently, a few hours after being intimate, the unidentified man, and I'm glad that they saved his identity, started suffering from severe diarrhea and vomiting. And then a few hours later, he experienced penile swelling and redness for about a week before he finally decided to go get medical help.
That's the real reason Cecil bailed. Yes, Linda. Yes. It's not kidney stones.
That's right. Okay, so doctors at the American University of Beirut Medical Center examined his scabbed penis, took a swab, and pointed the finger at Bacillus cereus, a bacteria found in soil, vegetation, and contaminated foods such as reheated rice and vegetables.
Okay, so I have questions.
Okay, all right. What you got?
How did the bacteria, I mean, were they like, it would have to be like be in contact, right?
Yes. So from what I could, because they say that there are about 6,300 cases, 63,000 cases a year in the U.S., according to the FDA. Okay. But it's actually a condition known as fried rice syndrome.
Stop it.
Dead serious.
Yeah.
Because let me explain, because if rice is left out at room temperature, it can produce toxins that cause the diarrhea and vomiting, and reheating it does not destroy those toxins. So from what I read, it says that what they feel like happened was he was in the toilet, he's got diarrhea, he's throwing up, he had just had sex, so he has no clothes on, and something probably splashed up on it. And evidently it was pretty rough sex with the wife. And maybe there was, an entryway that it could have gotten to him. But this is the first recorded case of it affecting anyone in that way. So,
go.
Okay, I will tell you guys, don't eat reheated rice that's been left at room temperature ever again.
We can go on a tangent about that, Harry. And yeah, Stephen, I think that's what we're saying. Is definitely leftover rice is bad. But
yes,
so
unless you refrigerate it.
This is a horrible story, but it's a true story, and it's relevant to this food conversation that we're having. So there was a couple. They both worked at a fast food restaurant. I won't name the restaurant. But the girl, all of a sudden, she starts having like uncontrollable moments of pleasure, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And it got so bad that she literally couldn't like go out of her house. So she goes to the doctor, and it turns out that when they were checking her out, that she had maggots inside of her that was causing these uncontrollable moments of pleasure. And it turns out that her and her boyfriend that worked at the fast food place, they were using condiments as lubricant.
Oh my God.
And the flies, I guess, had hit the condiments before they used it. And there was literal maggots inside of her.
Ew.
And that's one of the most horrible stories about that kind of stuff that I've ever heard.
And I have heard that things like that and like grubs and stuff can live inside of you.
Yes, they can.
Because if you swallow something and you don't chew it up enough to, destroy it, then it can live for a certain amount of time inside of you.
Yeah. Well, that kind of area is the perfect place for maggots, especially like if you think about it, because they're inside of carcasses and stuff.
Yes.
So
yes.
Yeah, don't use
Thank you, Landa.
don't use food condiments as lubricant is what we're getting at.
Or make sure that they were refrigerated, that you wash very well.
Yes.
Or as Landa said, just buy the damn batteries.
Yeah, buy the batteries. But we will move from the human anatomy to the pyramids of Giza now.
Okay, sounds good.
So, God. So this week there was plasma bubbles that were spotted over the Giza pyramids from China. And so apparently Chinese scientists detected plasma bubbles hovering over the pyramids. And they said that the mysterious floating structures were spotted by a high-tech radar and spread over 9,500 kilometers total. They are hot pockets of superheated gas that form at low altitudes and known to affect Earth's connection to space, and are important for communication and navigation. A sudden loss of charged particles in the ionosphere, which is in the upper atmosphere, triggers their formation, which is why it's so weird that they were above the pyramids. But the biggest thing about this apparently is that China was able to observe this from where they were at. Like apparently before this observation, people didn't think that they would be able to have such a radar system for detection of plasma bubbles like this at that range.
Scary, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So that, I don't know, people were freaking out about this though, because there's a huge camp that believes that the pyramids were used for, various things, energy generation being one of those things. And when you start hearing about plasma forming over the pyramids, you're like, well, maybe that's not so far-fetched. Like maybe there's something left under there somewhere.
Yeah. And I'd never heard of that, that phenomena existed and that that it affects as much as it does.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess it's really hard to even observe these plasma bubbles, which is why they thought that the technology didn't really exist until China came out and said that they had it. Now,
right.
I don't know why they came out and said that they could do this, because if it were any other country, they'd be like completely dark operations with stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, because like I said, and if they're letting something like that out, what the hell are they not telling us?
Right. Well, maybe that plays back into them handing out UFO handbooks all over the United States.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, that's very possible. Wow, that's crazy. I don't understand it.
So we could get into all of this week's recalls.
I bought a bottle of Fuji water the other weekend, and then after I was halfway through it, I went, crap, they just recalled this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think that one was for arsenic too, but maybe they got them all.
I hope, I haven't had any ill effects, so we're going to go with maybe we're okay.
I would say if you can, maybe for the next week, stay away from store-bought eggs. So there's been a bunch of cases of salmonella, and at least 24 people have had to be hospitalized so far from it. And these are just the reported cases that actually can link it back to the eggs. Mm-hmm. But apparently these suppliers, they go through California, Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, Minnesota, Utah, Virginia, Illinois. And those are just the known places. So I would say stay away from eggs for a week or two, at least until apparently all these eggs are coming from, they've been isolated to Milo's Poultry Farm.
Mhm.
But yeah, people are getting sick. And on top of that, apple juice. Apple juice was on our list the last time. That list has grown. They've recalled over 100,000 cases of apple juice so far. And so Walmart was one of the big retailers. They can't say what states it was in. They just give the UPC code. I'll read it, and you can always come back to the recording if you need it again. But it's 409910003638. So if you've got apple juice in your house, make sure it's not that UPC code. They brand it all kinds of different ways, I think is why they're given the UPC.
Yep.
And on top of that, this distributor also gives apple juice to Aldi. And Aldi is saying that it impacted Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kentucky, Maryland, Michigan, New York, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, West Virginia, and Wisconsin.
Same, Linda. I've never been happier that I hate apple juice.
Yeah. We don't drink apple juice, but I mean, you think of the kids. Like a lot of people have young children. If you do, and they like apple juice, and you've got apple juice in your pantry right now, you may at least want to go check it. Go check out. Just put in apple juice recall. You'll see. Right now, Aldi and Walmart are the big ones, and they're recalling these because of toxic levels of arsenic.
Yep.
So we always want to, anytime there's things like this, I want to put them on here just so that we can give you a heads up and protect your families.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because, and that's the thing is, of course, arsenic is naturally occurring, but one would think that as they're bringing in things that during their QC, that they'd be checking for stuff like this.
Yeah. No shit.
So,
yeah.
I mean,
Well, we know that our food supply system isn't the best for quality control.
Yeah, FDA, I've been more disappointed with them over the last few years. I used to have faith in what they did, and I really just don't anymore.
They have been absolutely decimated by lobbies. Like it's just they're not for the people, they're for the companies at this point.
Absolutely. Well, and another health thing that you had looked into too was there was a case of bird flu in Missouri from a guy who evidently had no contact with animals.
Yeah, they keep goosing the bird flu stuff. Like every few weeks, like it'll die down, and then you'll see it back in headlines again. Like they've culled millions of chickens. They've killed tons of beef over the bird flu stuff up to this point.
Yep.
But this is really where they're alluding to human transfer, though.
Yeah, because they said that he had absolutely no known contact with poultry or dairy cows, and he was hospitalized. I mean, so it was enough of a case that they kept him, and evidently there's growing anxiety about the risk of it spreading between humans because, this is the first case that they have mentioned.
Well, and you can't really talk about the stuff without getting into conspiracies. I mean, look at what time of year it is. Like we're getting close to an election.
Yep.
It just seems like crazy stuff happens right around this time every 4 years. And maybe it's happening all the time and they're just blowing it up in the headlines. Just,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Because like I said, that's the best way to keep everybody's mind off of the things that are huge.
That are important.
Is to give them something else, because I still haven't heard about all the apple juice recalls outside of here.
It's deep. Like that's why, every week we're really digging for these stories that are outside of just like what you're getting beat down with. And if you watch news, but the bird flu thing, there's almost 200 herd of cows so far that have had outbreaks. And like I said, we've reported on like millions of chickens that have been killed up to this point because of bird flu. And now the eggs are having problems, although albeit not bird flu problems. But it just seems like in all the fires at all of the food facilities all throughout the year, like it seems like our entire food infrastructure is being targeted.
Yeah, because I mean, all of those, I mean, even like late into last year, there were multiple incidences of food manufacturers just mysteriously burning down.
Yeah.
And everything. And they came and went. I mean, the same thing, you heard just a little bit about it and then boom, it disappears.
Yep.
And then, so, those are kind of important, especially with the food shortages, because you go to the store now, there are a lot of things that you don't see that you used to. A lot of restaurants now aren't serving nearly the things that they used to serve because of, they can't get the product.
Yep. They've cut down a lot because I think the process of everything has went through the roof too. Cut down their menus. I agree, Harry, with the well water. I would prefer well water. But yeah, the eggs,
well water.
The eggs, Harry, if there's anybody locally selling eggs, you may want to, at least for a little bit, a few weeks or something until they figure out where all these eggs went. Maybe stick to local.
But now a question, and I know with chicken, the way around salmonella is cooking it well.
I'm not sure on that one.
I don't either. I don't know about eggs because I've never, up until recently, really didn't think about the fact that eggs can get salmonella. But I know, like with chicken, as long as it's well cooked, because my understanding, and this was from, biology in college 100 years ago, is that half of every chicken out there has salmonella. Yeah. So that by cooking them, that's how you prevent it from passing on to you and getting sick.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what, like when these outbreaks happen, I'm not sure what distinguishes, and it really doesn't say. I just kind of glanced through it again. Whenever they target these outbreaks, like the CDC and stuff, I'm not sure how they designate these outbreaks as opposed to exactly what you're talking about, because that's normal. But yeah, I hope so too, Landa.
Me too, because I've got 3 dozen in my refrigerator right now.
So apparently this week there was an update on the Malaysian flight MH370. There's a guy in Australia, a scientist, that thinks that he may have found the hiding spot of that plane finally, which is a long-standing mystery. Like we've talked about it on Weird Awakenings too, in depth. But this guy's name is Vincent Lan. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's a researcher from the University of Tasmania's Institute for Marine and Antarctic Studies. He claims to have located the plane, which disappeared in 2014 with 239 people on board, that was allegedly flown intentionally into a 20,000 foot deep chasm in the Indian Ocean known as the Broken Ridge. His research detailed in his article suggests that the disappearance was a result of meticulous planning and not an accident. So I guess he's alleging that it was intentionally flown into the 20,000 foot deep chasm. But just some background: in 2014, it vanished while it was en route from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing, China, and despite an extensive search covering 120,000 square kilometers of the Indian Ocean, only fragments were ever found, and it was officially suspended in 2017. But Lan identified a 6,000 meter hole at the eastern end of a broken ridge as the likely resting place for MH370. And he did this, I guess, by using a simulator. Like he used a simulator to try to figure out where it could have went. and looked at topography, or maybe that's called something different when it's underwater.
Yeah, I mean, it works. We know what it means at least. So he's alleging that the pilot went, there's the spot, and just nosedived to get to.
That's what I'm getting. That's what I'm getting.
Okay.
So it says that his theory contradicts earlier notions of a rapid plunge due to a lack of fuel. Instead, he proposed a controlled ditching, basically the same as the dude that landed on the Hudson River, with the plane's wings, flaps, and flaperon damages supporting the scenario. The assertion also aligns with former Chief Canadian Air Crash investigator Larry Vance's earlier findings that MH370 had a controlled ditching with fuel and operating engines. His findings basically validated Vance's analysis. He emphasized his study fundamentally altered the narrative of the disappearance and speculated that if it had not been for the aircraft's right wing cutting through a wave, and in Marsat discovering frequent satellite communication interrogations, the plane's location would have gone unknown. He expressed confidence in his conclusions, and granted, I don't understand all of this, but he boldly states that MH370 has been fully resolved by science, and suggests that previous searches had failed due to mistaken beliefs about the aircraft's final moments and location. He is urging authorities and search firms to verify the region he identified as a critical area, and acknowledged that the final decision on whether to conduct further searches rested with the authorities in that area. So that's a lot to unpack. MH370's been going on for 10 years now, and it seems, I don't know if they're going to find it with I mean, that seems kind of crazy.
Well, it does, and just being able to get to that type of location, because I'm assuming that it's not just like one little pinpointed spot, that he's probably talking miles and miles, this area, so something that deep and that far,
20,000 foot deep.
Yeah.
Basically like a
baby Marianas.
Yeah. A trench is exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. You know what? If he's saying he solved this with a flight simulator and different scenarios, don't you think that over the last 10 years, somebody else would have war gamed that out like a professional? You know what I mean? Not saying he's not a professional. He is a scientist, but he's not a pilot.
Right. So, if that is what happened, somebody had already figured it out. They're just not talking about it.
Right.
I mean, and like I said, that would have to be pretty, because, we've talked about it, like I said, in depth more than once about the fact that it's possible that it was an intentional crash. I don't think that, it got shot out of the sky. I think that somebody would have been able to detect that and everything. But
there's an absolutely heartbreaking story that I wanted to share this week.
Is this about the Cheetos bag?
No.
The dog.
Wait, if you want to hit the Cheetos bag at the end, I'll grab through get through this one about the dog.
Yeah, because I can't do the dog. That one will make me cry.
Listen, I watched the guy talking about this, like the guy that is talking about, and it is heart just wrenching. Mm-hmm. So the tagline on this one says that Denton County man in Texas was heartbroken after his missing dog is euthanized at a city shelter. And it's really a messed up situation. So he said that after so he's furious, obviously, but he says that the last time that he saw his 13-year-old Labrador Gunner, his dog was sunbathing in his driveway on Tuesday, September 3rd, I snapped a picture, not knowing that it would be the last picture I would ever take of him. And this guy's name is John Gilcrease. He says that when he came home from work, he didn't initially realize that Gunner was missing until he didn't come for food at dinner. And after searching into the early hours of the morning, he turned to the internet, made a post on Facebook, and a post on Nextdoor Neighbor saying, "My dog is gone. Somebody please help me." One of the responses to the post on Wednesday morning was a screenshot from Denton Animal Services website with Gunner's photo. His wife called the shelter and was told that it was closed to the public on Wednesdays, but we have Gunner. Gunner's here. You are free to come pick him up the next day at 10 a.m. Gilcrease says his wife was told. And when he arrived at the shelter Thursday morning, Gunner was nowhere to be found. He said that he was ushered into the director's office, and she said, "We had your dog." And then his heart sank because he said, "You had my dog?" And then they didn't say anything. And then he says, "Did you kill my fucking dog?" And finally they said, "Unfortunately, yes, we did." And Denton Animal Services says an individual brought in Gunner after he says that he was found near I-35 and West University on Tuesday, about 12 miles from Gilcrease's home. And this is where it starts getting weird, because apparently it's a 13-year-old dog. It apparently had hip problems, and the dog just kind of laid around the house. So he alleges that the dog could not have physically walked 12 miles, like that there's just absolutely no way. But Animal Services said the dog was not able to walk without assistance. So keep that in mind. Animal Services is saying that. Had no control and was clearly uncomfortable. Gilcrease says that the dog was microchipped as well, but Denton County Animal Services says the email addresses and the phone numbers were not valid. Staff members researched the name connected to the microchip and called all numbers, they said, but were not able to get to them. The animal remained under the watch of Denton County Animal Services overnight, and then euthanized him the next morning because they said they had his continued pain in mind, and the difficult decision was made to euthanize Gunner the following day to preserve his quality of life as a priority. That's what the city wrote as a statement. The animal shelter's website, however, says that it has a 72-hour stray hold before it becomes the property of Denton Animal Shelter, and they put it up for adoption or make a decision. While the hold period typically applies, there are exceptions, such as when an animal is suffering or has a poor quality of life. Gilcrease disagrees with the city's assessment, calling Gunner a healthy dog and questioning the shelter story. He said, "My dog was picked up by a stranger, taken to a strange place, and killed by strangers. And it was all done without me by his side, and that breaks my heart." He claims after doing some testing that it was determined earlier on that Gunner actually had chronic arthritis. He said Gunner was improving with medication and a change in his diet, and that he has filed a report with the police. A police detective has showed up, I think it was this past Monday, and an investigation is now underway. This is blowing up all over the internet. So if you're listening to it, then don't be surprised if your phone hears this right now. I'm sure you'll see it on social media somewhere. But the city of Denton says that its animal services team said that there will be a review of the shelter's processes. The findings are expected to be made public once complete. And Gilcrease says, "I want change. I want the laws to be followed. I want ordinances to be followed, but they're not." And he actually remained a lot calmer than a lot of us would if this happened. Like if your dog was missing and you can't pick him up the next morning, they tell you to come Thursday, and you show up and your dog's dead. And to listen to him say it, John Gilcrease, he tells the whole story. It's just absolutely heartbreaking. And he says that he is going to try to do everything in his power. He's talking to attorneys. He wants basically everybody terminated that was involved in it, and the whole animal services to be reevaluated in that city.
Well, if they knew he was coming Thursday morning, that's the part of it that gets me. Okay, you've determined his quality of life is not good, but his owner will be here at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning.
That's the owner's decision.
Yes.
And it was microchipped.
Yes.
Like I'm having a hard time buying that if Gunner lived there for 13 years, that the microchip didn't lead back to the owner.
Right. Exactly. And
well, yeah,
I will.
Landa said that the staff are getting death threats, and people were posting up their personal info. We're not inciting violence, but
no.
I do hope that Gunner gets justice, because I don't care what they say. Like, that was grossly mishandled. It had to be.
Absolutely. And I do totally disagree with posting people's personal information. Let the process happen. And because, very many people were at fault there. The first one being whoever picked this dog up,
Yeah.
Because I'm like you, most likely if they saw him at all, he was in his own yard doing nothing.
Yeah.
My assholes, you'll know they're there because they're going to raise 3 kinds of hell because you were in the neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But like I said, most of the time when you've got an animal like that that's grown up in an area where there's traffic and stuff, they're not that way. They're quiet. They don't bark when people go by because they're used to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had to tell that one this week. If you haven't seen that or heard of it, look it up. It is absolutely heartbreaking to hear the owner's story about all that. And I hope that he gets justice. I know you can't bring your dog back, but I think the most heartbreaking part is when they told him, they literally move out of the way and his dog is dead in a red bag just sitting there. And he's like, you can take him home. They told him, they're like, you can take him home now. That's the point where
I'd have lost it.
Yeah. So I don't think we have time to finish up, but we appreciate everybody watching. We are going to be live again in 15 minutes on Weird Realities. Weird with a Y. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and we are going to be talking about. It's actually a conspiracy topic tonight. Usually it's not. We just kind of touch on conspiracies by accident. But what are we talking about?
Titanic conspiracies.
Which will be amazing. So theories and strange happenings around the Titanic and the people on the Titanic. So join us there in 15 minutes. If you're watching and you haven't already followed us here, follow us. We go live every Friday at 7 p.m. Central to talk about strange news. We may or may not do a show tomorrow. If Cecil's not feeling good, we probably won't. But here, if we don't do a show tomorrow, here in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be talking about McCamey Manor in depth. And that'll probably be an hour or 2 Saturday show. Just the entire history of it and what's going on with it now.
Sounds good.
Did I miss anything?
No. We'll be back here next Friday night.
Yep. Friday at 7. But thanks for watching us.
Because we're watching you.
We are watching you.